Sometimes I wanna light up underneath the no smoking sign. Sometimes I wish they'd tell me how justice got so blind. I wish they'd just leave me alone, 'cause I'm doing alright. You can take your change on down the road and leave me here with mine. 'Cause that ain't my America, that ain't this country's roots. You wanna slam old Uncle Sam, but I ain't letting you. I'm mad as hell and you know I still bleed red, white, and blue. They ain't us, that ain't my America. That ain't my America.
Welcome to the Tech Club this morning on Sunday, April 7th, 2013. My name is Mish. Jason is with me.
I am here as well.
Yay. We are the Computer Tamers, Tech Tamers, Stone Mountain Consultants. We have many names. Our website is smc.io. And we're going to be talking about some stuff today. Our main topic is going to be hard drives and backup, and basically what this means to you when you buy a computer or any of your devices or anything like that. But let's get to the news. Firstly, people, their cell phone company T-Mobile had just is going to begin selling the iPhone 5, but at a new way of doing it. Instead of subcontracted down to where you pay like $200 for the phone, and in a contract, you pay $99 down, no contract, but you pay off I believe it's $40 a month for $20 per month for the next 24 months. So basically, you're buying the phone outright. Like if you were buying it straight from Apple or whatnot. The also one cool thing, and Jason actually pointed this one out to me, was that once you paid off your phone, you become your phone is unlocked for you, which means that you can actually take it to any carrier after that. So basically, it is yours outright. What happens when most cell phone companies sell you a phone or give you a phone, they lock it to their own network, so that when the network is kind of bound to you, but you can actually unlock it. Usually, costs some money to lock it, and then basically, then it's yours. You could actually go from like AT&T to T-Mobile to wherever. But that's kind of interesting. Secondly, let's see. I thought this was interesting. Is that once I find it, Jason actually saw this that basically Android continues to lose ground on Apple in the U.S., which basically means is that the Apple iPhone series of phones are the hottest things since sliced bread. They just hold so much of the market share that Android is just not doing it. Well, that's our first break right there. So we'll be right back after these messages.
and we're back here on this April 7th day of 2013, the Tech Club. Mish and Jaison are here as well. One last news headline, growing push to track your location indoors, and that's actually from CNN. This is actually relatively,
Communist News Network.
Yeah, but this shows how a lot of services, including Facebook and so forth, are actually trying to even track your location indoors now, because one way they track you is through GPS, and that's of course outdoors. Satellite can't reach indoors
Yet.
But it's just another way how technology and these companies are. You're losing your privacy fast with these technology companies. And of course, I don't think it's not a surprise from Facebook and so forth, but there's also a lot of other companies that, they just don't care about your privacy. They just want the information about you.
Mm-hmm. And your money.
Our email address is help@smc.io, and yes, Mish did actually give out our new web address.
Yeah, it's finished.
It's finished. We did that last week, so that took a little longer than I thought, but I think everybody will like it. I think it's easy to use. It lists all of our services available, what we do, and links to our shows, and actually links to where you can listen to us live. And what else does it have? Even has a few games on there.
Yes, it does.
And then just some simple games to kind of keep you busy, keep your mind in play.
In La La Land.
In La La Land. We're going to be adding some other things. There's a forum on there as well, which at this point we'll need to get up and running. But and also blog posts where Mish and I will post blogs or articles about various subjects in the future. And actually,
what grinds our gears, what steams our beans.
Right. So that again is smc.io, which is actually just a shortened version of Stone Mountain Consultants. And IO is just a play on the words input output.
Oh, I get the input output, especially with beans.
Yes. Where was it? Tech Talk. Nope, not Tech Talk. Tech Log. Actually, our topic, like Mish had said, is hard drives and backing up. I believe, yes, one of the first blog posts that actually I did was, why do hard drives fail? It's actually a relatively lengthy blog or article, but it goes into detail how hard drives work, which we will cover on a high level on this show, and the types of failures, and how to recover from them. So that blog post is out there at smc.io under Tech Blog. Our phone number is here on this show. If you'd like to call in, we can certainly take calls at any time during the show. You're more than welcome to call in with any questions or comments. It's 800-313-9443. So, you probably have, just the saying says, you probably either have personally experienced or know somebody who's experienced a hard drive crash or a data crash on their computer.
Or even just device.
Nowadays, could also be your device, your tablet or your smartphone.
All of a sudden, it's wiped. It's like it just came out of the package. Right? What happened?
There are two. When we refer to data crash, typically refers to your hard drive. This is not to be confused with your RAM in your computer or your RAM in your phone or tablet. Mm-hmm. RAM is what we refer to, it's called random access memory is what it's called, but it's temporary.
Yes.
It only stores data when it has a current or power going through it. And that's why I say if you've got Microsoft Word open and have this lengthy blog post written out, and if you haven't saved it yet and you lose power, you'll lose it because you haven't saved it. It's stored into RAM. When you turn on your computer or turn on your device, it loads, say for example, Windows into RAM. It's all temporary. People commonly confuse RAM with hard drive space. Hard drive is actually where you store your data or save the data. It's written to these platters.
Yes, it's like your file cabinets.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. So with that in mind, there are two types of hard drives that we have in play nowadays. It used to be just one. That was what we call the mechanical hard drive, or HDD.
Hard disk drive.
Hard disk drive. That's the most common one out there.
Cheapest too.
And cheapest. I'll go over how that works, and Mish will go over the SSD drives later on. But hard drives are mechanical drives. We call them mechanical because that's indeed what they are. They're a mechanical device. Inside this unit, which if you have a desktop computer, it's probably the size of like a paperback book. If you have a laptop, it's probably half the size of a deck of cards.
Mm-hmm.
In that unit is platters. So for folks who know what a phonograph player is, it's just like that. You have your platters.
So old.
I am old. So I bet most people know what I'm talking about now.
Yes.
They have these platters in there, sometimes 2, 3, 4 platters that spin. The faster they spin, the faster your data can be read from. And it's read from a read-write head, which works almost like a phonograph player.
Yeah.
It traverses the platters and pulls your data.
That's a big word, traverse.
But a big difference is that there is no needle on this read-write head. It actually skims the surface. It doesn't touch the surface of the platter. In fact, the distance between the platter and the read-write head is usually half the width of a hair.
Mm-hmm.
Length. No length, but width. Yes, I say that right. Half the hair's width from the platter.
It depends on how long your hair is. If you're really short hair, it's good.
Oh, wow. So it skims the surface and reads the data from there, or writes the data to it. And it's all magnetized. So that's how it does that. So these platters spin. The faster they spin, the faster your data can be read from. Most hard drives in laptops nowadays spin at around 5,400 RPM, which means they spin 5,400 revolutions per minute.
It's actually pretty fast.
It is fast, because the older ones, I think, were 4,200 RPM.
Mm-hmm.
The ones in desktops will spin faster, around 7,200 RPM, or if you've got a fancy one, it'll spin at about 10,000 RPM. The reason why the laptops tend to be slower is because they are smaller units.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, the platters spin, the read-write head flashes, go back and forth. They create heat, and manufacturers have to devise a way to
get rid of
the heat that this is generated.
Because heat is the enemy of all mechanical and devices.
And that is exactly why one of the reasons why these hard drives fail, because this heat over time will, like anything else here, we said, heat will ruin anything mechanical. It just over time wears away the parts. So that is one of the most common reasons a hard drive fails. A couple other reasons: there is a circuit board on the hard drive.
Yes.
That circuit board could just fry. It could be from a solar flare. It could be from a lightning strike, a power surge, anything. And
even from light. I was reading a thing that if something sits in the light, water does this too. It's called denatures. Disassociation. Disassociation. Basically, it breaks down the components of the thing. So most of the stuff in a circuit board is, glass and chips, and the glass gets disassociated because the light's going through it. It's the reason why your paint outside fades, even if it was covered with stuff. It will just start to fade because the light just destroys everything.
Well, that's one of the big reasons. If a hard drive fails, or the platters could be wearing away, Those are actually easy to repair. Because we can usually recover the data quicker when those sectors, which are, think of a parking lot, when the platters start deteriorating away. If the hard drive fails mechanically, it's usually a lot more difficult and more expensive to recover your data. There are so that is actually one tip in buying specifically a laptop. You do want to look at a hard drive speed, and they do list that as a rotational speed of the hard drive. They don't say 5400 or 7200. If you see one with 7200, that is the
better of the groups, because
it pulls the data. If you have two exact computers side by side, literally exactly the same with the same software, the same everything. One has a 5400 RPM hard drive, the other is 7200. You'll definitely notice a speed difference with the faster hard drive because it is pulling your data.
It's like the difference of going on the highway 55 miles per hour or 80. You're going to get there much quicker. Past that person that's going 55 very quickly.
So those are mechanical hard drives. When we come back from the break, Mish will cover the newest one, which is SSDs.
And we are back. We are at the Tech Club. Yes, I forgot our names. Yes. Website is smc.io. And you can email us at help@smc.io. Jason, in the last segment, talked about hard drives. Hard drives.
Specifically mechanical drives.
Yes, which is really what the old hard drive is, a mechanical drive. The new fancy-dancy ones are the solid-state drive, or SSD. So the other one was HDD, this one's SSD. Basically, in a nutshell first, the solid-state drives are RAM. They made special RAM, like what you do, that you have in your thumb drive, or even in your, like your phone or whatnot. It's persistent, it won't go away. That's the only difference. And it's stored regular storage space. And what makes this super awesome, is the fact that it's super fast. Whereas Jason was talking about how you're pulling data, it's spending a certain amount of time. It then, when the as the data is flowing, you only have a certain amount of speed, maybe 40 megabits per second, which is actually pretty fast for a hard drive. But on SSD, you're pulling stuff maybe at 400 or 500 megabits per second, so a lot faster. Which means that you can, say you have your hard drive, your operating system, on the SSD, it'll start up in like maybe 10 seconds, maybe less. Whereas in the hard drive, it'll start up in maybe 30 seconds. Or a minute. Or in Jason's case, before he upgraded to the SSD, he was like, 5 minutes?
No, I had a 2-minute startup on my laptop, and I replaced it with an SSD drive, went down to 10 seconds.
Yep. Significant improvement in speed. The only difference in between the two, because one is new, one is old, is price and sizes you can get. Although now the sizes are coming up there, they're getting pretty close. It's really the price now. Yeah, it used to be, hard drives, you can now get almost a terabyte hard drive for $100. And a terabyte is 1,000 gigabyte. And a gigabyte is 1,000 megabyte. So, it's a lot of space. Whereas with an SSD, you're paying about $1 or $1 a gig. So, a 250 gig hard drive is about $250. SSD hard drive. So it just shows that although they're coming down in price a little bit, but it's still very expensive. So if you had a server or you wanted to put all your stuff on SSD, it might not be a good idea. One of the things that make SSD hard drives also good is the fact that they don't create a lot of heat and they don't require a lot of power. So the SSDs in like a laptop, the battery lasts a lot longer, and the heat is not as great, so it doesn't wear out. Now, granted, it will fail.
Like anything.
Yes, like anything. And the adage for hard drives, both SSD and HDD, is not if your hard drive is going to fail, it's when. And generally, usually at the worst opportune time. It's like, I have this one thing due, it's going to give me like so much money. Oh, my computer failed. Oh, it's going to be late. And I'm going to lose out on that project, whole 9 yards. Generally occurs that way. But, so the SSDs are better in speed and whatnot, but within large storage, the HDDs are always the best, just because you can fit more space on them. And basically, the one thing about the SSD that makes it also good is that you can put these into, because you can actually make them smaller. The iPhone, the Android, all your cell phones, your tablets, they use SSDs. So that's why your phone, although Apple phones do take about 8 hours to boot up and reboot.
Yes.
It takes about, a minute?
Yeah, about a minute.
Which is actually kind of funny because, I mean, it's an SSD, it's got a pretty powerful processor in it. You should be able to do it. But it's a reason why you can open an app and it kind of opens quickly, because if it was an HD Plus, you can drop it. Although you shouldn't drop an iPhone because the screen breaks very easily. You've gone through so many iPhone screens. Same thing with like iPods and whatnot. But if you hear something spin up in your device, that means that they put a regular hard drive in there. If you hear a whoosh,
it's typically the hard drive you hear.
Yes. I have my old iPod. It was an 80 gig at the time. It was super awesome. You could hear whining. So if you drop that while it's playing, you may lose everything because it's a regular hard drive. So it's one of the things about you have to be wary of or aware of your devices.
So that is probably another tip you want to look at in buying a computer.
We'll talk about that when we get back from the break. Be right back.
Today, April 7th. Today's actually going to be a fine day out here. It's supposed to be near 70. Finally warming up. Thought summer spring wasn't going to arrive this year. And I guess it decided it. Heard me. Before the break, Mish was actually talking about solid state drives. And before that, I was talking about the
Are you going to go back to the dinosaurs?
Hard drive.
Before that, the Arabs came and bought the Mercedes-Benzes.
So one tip is to possibly get a laptop with a solid-state drive with one catch. If you store a lot of data, like me, so if you're like me and you store a lot of data, solid-state drive may not be your best option because you will run out of space quickly.
Sweet, yes.
In fact, I don't have enough hard drive space because it's just too small. I have to move videos, audio files off to an external drive. But they do have, they call them hybrid drives.
Yeah.
What they're a combination of a solid-state drive and a mechanical drive. The solid-state drive may be something like 24 gigs, and the other part of the hard drive, the mechanical part of it, is something like 750 or a terabyte.
Yeah.
Those are the way to go, because what would happen is Windows would then typically, or the Apple operating system, will typically be installed on the solid-state portion of that drive. So your computer will boot up in 10 seconds or shut down in 5 seconds. Your data, though, or the programs that you install, would be on the other drive. So that's a nice medium, a happy medium when it comes to hard drives. Backing up, as we had talked about.
Should we have the lights on and the beep, beep?
Right. Backing up your data, typically on a computer, but also your devices, is obviously extremely important.
People listen to us, you would like, I'm going to lose everything on my computer very quickly. Yes, you will.
As Misha said earlier, it's not if your hard drive is going to fail, it's when. I have seen we've seen hard drives last 3 days. Obviously, that's an anomaly.
And anomaly?
I've seen them last 10 years.
Yes.
I think Google did actually a paper on the...
Vaguely remember that, yes.
The
hours and whatnot that...
How fast hard drives will fail. And even the manufacturers, because if you think about it, the company that probably uses the most storage space of all of us is Google.
Yes.
It has to save all that data.
I don't know about nowadays, but they used to, and how they got started and made it so fast was they used lots of, I guess you say, off-the-shelf crappy computers, but linked them in a way that they all worked off of each other. So they used off-the-shelf parts for the first, I think, like almost 10, 15 years.
Yeah, but same hard drives that you and I would be purchasing, that's in our computers. Basically, the report had said, the white paper had said that if your hard drive is going to fail, it's usually going to fail in the first 3 months.
Yes.
And then from there, the chances of it failing drop after the next 3 months, and it's usually like a 3-month period that it keeps dropping off. But anyhow, so your hard drive will fail.
3 months, step down. 3 months.
I had a friend who, she had a laptop and she had the power adapter. She was holding the power adapter and had dropped it onto the keyboard area. And she happened to drop it over the actual hard drive, because manufacturers typically place the hard drive under one of the palm rests.
Which is very intelligent.
And for people who actually get angry or everything, they can slam their hand down.
Oops.
Right, not unusual, slamming their hand directly onto the hard drive. But anyhow, she dropped it only about an inch away from it, and she crashed her hard drive. So, especially if the computer is on,
yes, if it's spinning and those heads are moving around and stuff there is things happening. And in reality, even solid-state drives, there's movement happening inside the chips. You just don't see it in the really tiny switches.
So if you bang your computer, if you're carrying it to the other room and you actually bang it on the door frame, or if it gets dropped,
you're totally drunk.
You're definitely going to run a higher risk of that hard drive crashing.
You want to treat it as if it's crystal.
Some laptops do come with, especially the higher end ones, do come with. We'll call it hard drive protection. Each manufacturer calls it a little differently. I think Lenovo calls it the airbag.
Airbags.
Acer DASP, which is like disk airbag safety protection, I think.
Something like that.
But basically what it does is it monitors the movement of the laptop, and if the laptop is moving too much, it will actually park the read-write head. And if you remember me saying how earlier in the show there's a read-write head which can potentially slam down on these platters. So imagine taking a phonograph player and just running the needle across the record. That's what can happen.
Hurt your ears too. If it's on.
Right. You will actually hear clicking. That brings up a good point. You know you have a problem with your hard drive if you hear the soft clicking or... Yep, exactly. Or some whiny noises. That is typically the hard drive. So if you hear noises like that coming out of your computer, that could be your hard drive.
I've heard them so many times I could make them.
For this hard drive protection, we'll move the read-write head off the platters. So it's really designed if you crash your computer. If you drop your computer.
Mm-hmm.
So backing up, the rule of thumb, and as we say in the industry, the 3-2-1 rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I always get it wrong, so you can correct me. You want 3 types of backups on 2 different media. So let's say like a CD-ROM or a flash drive.
Got it.
Or an external hard drive. And 1 should be off-site.
Away from you.
Right, not in the same area. Because, you can be happily backing up every day in your office.
You could have 80 different backups.
Right, one for every... you could have 80 backups, 1 for every, whatever.
We had a customer that almost did that.
And...
Do you remember him? He had like 4 backups.
Yes.
He ran in the morning.
He backup of a backup.
Yes.
And
came at 4 a.m. to do it.
But what happens if there's a fire or something that happens to that location?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the computer's gone, but all those 80 backups are gone as well. So you want at least 1 off-site. It could be in your glove compartment box in your car. If this is a business, 1 at home.
You can give it to your Aunt Lucy.
Right. Give a couple copies, 1 to each employee.
Yes. And you can even encrypt them so that they can't get things off of it.
A lot of backup software will encrypt the data as well. People ask me, how should I back up? My answer usually is, well, it all depends on how important your data is to you. We've seen grown men cry when they've lost their baby pictures or their work data.
I think a lot of the men cried with the baby corpses because they're going to get killed by their wives.
Especially right with women with babies. So we've definitely seen that. So it really all depends on how important your data is. The easiest backup. So you want 3 types of backups. Okay. This is preferably on 2 different media. A lot of people will back up like their documents or QuickBooks data to a flash drive.
In my throat.
I heard.
I live next to a pond that has lots of frogs. They must have jumped down.
So flash drive, those little drives you see the size of a thumb, or, they plug into the USB portion of your computer. People back up some of their data to that, and that's great. If you're backing up your financial information, you may want to get like 2 of them, and again, put 1 somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
There's one version of offsite uses your high-speed internet.
Mm-hmm.
We'll need high-speed internet for this, where you get a press that will install a little program on your computer, and you tell it what you want it to back up, and from then on, you do nothing else. It's hands-free. It will back up any of your data as it changes off-site to some center. Depends what service you go with, and then they of course have backups of backups. The nice thing about a service like that is once you set it up, there's nothing you do.
Yep. It is all done for you.
If you choose, yes, it's you do pay for that convenience. It is going to be a little more expensive.
Plus, you need to pay for it. So if we get a bill, they might lose your stuff.
Otherwise, what you have to do is nightly or once a week remember to back up your data. I know we actually had a couple customers who were new customers to us. They called us in for whatever reason. They couldn't find their old IT people and whatever. We came in and we checked their backups, and I know like one customer was backing up for years, and it went to tapes, and it was backing up nothing. They were just going through the motion of sticking the tape into the drive, and the next morning taking it out.
I had one that they were backing up the shortcuts to their program from their desktop on CDs, and they were wondering why they're never increased in size.
And that's another thing. Your backup will be also always increasing in size because you're always, of course, saving data to your drive.
So your backup, you may start a CD, may go to a DVD. They may need external hard drive, so it will always be growing, much like the universe and my gut.
So, yeah. So that brings up a good point. One thing, once you've decided on a backup method, you want to obviously verify it is backing up.
Disaster recovery?
And test it out in sort of a disaster recovery. Actually, it's called DRP, or disaster recovery procedure. You have to create one. Let's say you were backing up religiously, you're doing what you needed to do, but for whatever reason, you couldn't get to work. Prime example, even for us personally, when we were in Connecticut, we had the Hurricane Sandy, we had the snowstorm from October 11, 2011, and then we had Irene, not necessarily in that order for folks who are actually keeping track. People were out of power for over a week, and they also physically could not get to their office. So you need to create a disaster recovery plan.
Yes.
In case something were to happen. You had no internet, you had no phone service, or couldn't get to the business.
It's kind of like if you have say you process all your credit cards for your business or whatever over the internet. What if you lose the internet? How are you going to process your credit cards? You would need a manual or a backup way.
So it's better to create this plan or DRP plan before it happens instead of you running around like a chicken without its head cut off.
Yeah, actually very disgusting at the same time. It was funny.
But you want to test your stuff out. Is there somebody's house you could go to? Is there another business that you could share space with until your business is up and running? And of course, in that regard, you want to make sure that business isn't next door to your business, because if you can't get to yours,
they can't get to
theirs.
Or if you don't have power, generally they don't either.
You probably want to find, in that example, somewhere else in the other end of town, and test it out. One nice thing about off-site backups, and that's another reason why you want an off-site backup, is because then you can, if you can't get to your office, you can then call up your employee, Jim, and say, hey, I need those backups from last week. We're going to go over to our disaster site, and we're going to restore our data there. And it's good to test this all out. So take one day or take a Saturday or Sunday and do a dry run. Do a dry run to see if it works out, because there's obviously going to be kinks in it. What if the backup never took place?
What if it takes, the backup you're doing takes 3 days to restore back? You need to think of almost every eventuality. Because if you do think of every eventuality, at least as many as possible, within reason, it won't be as stressful. You won't be basically losing sleep and whatnot. You'll be like, oh, this is it's the reason why McDonald's is so successful, is because everything is planned and systematized out to the nth degree, from them molding that fake food into it's like a Play-Doh thing, and giving it to you to the cleaning of the toilets. It's systematized so that it actually, there is no if, ands, or buts. Basically, retarded monkeys can do it, and sometimes I've eaten there. And that's what you've gotten sometimes.
But there's also one huge advantage to all this, one selfish advantage to your business. If you've pre-planned all this and you've tested it out and you know it works, when the poop hits the fan, you go to your disaster recovery place, you're up and running unlike all the other businesses.
So
who are these folks who are around, do have power, do have money, where are they going to go to? They can't call their regular oil delivery company because they're up in arms figuring out what to do, but you're already up and running. They're going to call you.
Exactly. You can jump the shark there.
Right. So that is one easy way to reap some benefits from this. So there's definitely some benefits to this.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course,
just from the stress aspect.
If people lose their financial information, and yes, it's typically in a program like QuickBooks and all that. If they lose that financial information, all of it, they typically are out of business.
Yes. And usually, depending on the time period, IRS are after them.
But what if you're a construction
company? Revenue service.
What if you're a construction company and you've lost all your plans?
Oh, yes.
Or your bids. If you lost your bids, you can't get to your bids. You can't submit those, and therefore you can't get any more jobs. So it's definitely, you want to think about disaster recovery. All right, there's our break. When we come back, we will wrap all this information up. We'll see you in a minute.
Last little bit of us you're going to hear, the Tech Club, until next week. Unless they repeat this show, then that's be funny. We've been talking about hard drives, both solid-state drives and regular old-school hard drives, and backing up. And the crux of all of this is that nothing is permanent, nothing is for sure. Plan. And
create a disaster recovery plan.
And have a backup of, I would say, it's not even just your data. I mean, backups for everything. Like, say you are a driver. That's what you do is you just drive everywhere and you use your personal car. What if your car is out? Well, have a backup, even if it's an old clunker.
Right. Like anything else you want. If something's extremely important to you, if you can't do your business without it or something, it's good to have a backup.
You shouldn't rely on one, as they say, put all your eggs in one basket.
Backing up your tablet or phone is easy.
Yep.
You typically would plug it into, and you probably already do, plug it into your computer. And sync it up, and that typically backs it up. With Android phones, it's actually a little easier because you're required to have a Gmail account in order to activate an Android phone. And by default, it's set to back up everything. So if you were to get a new Android phone, you sign in with your Gmail account on it. It downloads everything, your apps, your history, your contacts and all that. And with iCloud, if you have that set up properly on an iPhone or an iPad, it does the same. But like I said, with the Android, it's set up by default that way. iCloud, kind of have to play around with it. But if you do sync it up to your computer, you will have a backup. And we've had that case where something happens to the phone, you just plug it in, you do a restore.
Yep.
Or if you buy a new phone and you just restore the backup from your old phone onto the new one.
You did that with your when you did it from your 4 to your 4S. You had just plugged in the new one, restored it, and even had your background pictures. Like, oh.
Everything was there in all your settings. So.
Yes.
Again, I want to remind people that our website is smc.io, which is short for StoneMountainConsultants.com. Out there, we have all of our information, including we finally got that up and running last week. But it's got some articles out there. One actually specifically to the show. Why do hard drives fail? It's a good read, I think, especially if you're into the whys and hows of things that work or don't work.
Yeah.
But certainly go out to that. If you have You can always call us. Our information's on there, our address, our phone number.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to email us, it is help@smc.io.
And if you even if you want to know about a certain subject, you can even email us or call in, whatever, and ask for topics for shows you want to hear. Like, I heard about this office thing that's from the internet. Could you talk about it? Sure, or something like that.
Well, yeah, I think next week we were talking about how it is.
Yes,
and we'll go over what that. You have a good week, and we will see you in 7 days.
Bye-bye.